Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is you're watching this, wherever you're watching this. I hope everyone is having a good holiday season. We're nearing the end of this turbulent year. We'll be all glad to see gone, at least 99% of us. I won't go into details because basically we're all living it. Whatever's happening right now, we're all living it. It's all part of our experience. And we're facing an uncertain future, honestly. Don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of really behind the scenes changes happening in politics and in our society itself. So a lot of people are just, they don't know what's going to be the next year. They don't know what it's going to bring. In fact, no one does. I mean, we used to be pretty certain of how things were going to be, at least for the most part. But now everything's up in the air. So all I can say is, from what I've done in my research and what I've learned about things, just be ready for anything and don't be surprised by things, especially if things change drastically in our social lives and in our regular everyday lives. So just kind of ominous, I know, but just be ready and be careful and definitely take care of your own and don't get too ridiculous. Okay, and don't believe everything you see, because you're going to see a lot of things that are just out and out lies. So be very careful, be very shrewd. Well, with that out of the way, I'll talk about social media and music channels and things like that now that this is the end of 2020. And the things that I've seen this year are pretty much the same things I saw last year, only with everybody being shut in. Now it's kind of gotten a bit worse. People have become a bit stir crazy, and that's not really too much of an excuse, but it's definitely augmented things. People who already have problems, ego problems, narcissism problems, things like that, they just increase a great deal when they're shut in with others. And so that kind of makes things crazy and makes things just too ridiculous. And they'll get worse, they'll act worse, they'll lash out more. It happens. And as a result of that, the gear snobbery is still flourishing. In fact, it's even worse this year than it was last year. I mean, last year it was pretty bad with Gibson's Play Authentic video and all the people who came out in defense of Gibson over that, which was ridiculous. And then there were the Tonewood Wars, which are still going on to this day, that started a couple of years ago, and they're still going on. But what can you do? It is what it is. Everybody's got opinions on it. A lot of these opinions are not based on actual reality and scientific facts. But that's the power of marketing, people. That's the power of marketing. Marketing is a way for companies to get people to spend more money than they should on things that aren't even worth half of the money that they're paying for it. That's marketing. So anyway, I had an encounter with a nasty gear snob that I've run into before. Ran into him last year, in fact. It's crazy. And he still acts the same. This guy is bragging about all these guitars he supposedly owns. And does he own them? I don't know. Is there any proof that he owns them? No, nothing. I actually asked him I said, you say you own over 100 electric guitars. Why don't you have any videos on your channel of any of these guitars? Why don't you have any pictures on social media of these guitars? Why are you hiding? And he got really mad at me and started attacking me personally and stuff. I just asked questions. But apparently it was, enough of him to make fun of my appearance, make fun of my health, my failing health, of course. Everybody knows that I'm terminally ill and don't have a great deal of time left, but who knows? Nobody knows how much time I got left. But, I mean, he made fun of all of that. All because I asked him to post his guitars and prove what he was claiming. And of course you find it on the more popular YouTube channels. These people flourish to them. They flock to these YouTube channels. And I'll explain why. Um, Now, this mentality of self is even worse than it ever was. I mean, they called the 70s the me decade. Oh, no. The 70s and even the 80s got nothing on right now. The me decade is this is it. This is like the me reality, where everything is about me. And it's all about me and my appearance and how I project myself online and the lies I tell and the truths I tell, if there are any. So I was watching this video, and this kind of had it all in a nutshell. This is a millennial girl, and millennial guys act like this too. But this was a millennial girl's YouTube video, and she was talking about people sending her gifts because a lot of these guys who are on there want to throw money at her, which has been the case for a while now, and it's stupid and whatever. But people want to throw money at her and gifts and stuff. And she said, whatever you do, don't buy me books. Books are not cool. I don't do books. I'm not about books. Don't buy me books. Buy me other things. And it just, I don't know, I just sat there and looked at it. I'd heard things like that from children before, but never a person who is nearly 30 years old. And it made me think about how schools are now. When my kids were in school back in the 2000s, mid-2000s, around that time, the educational system was really not teaching the kids anything. It was basically indoctrination, but it wasn't full indoctrination. There were a few classes that were teaching kids different things and things of value that they could use later. Now, things have kind of radically changed and gotten a lot worse, to where schools are now indoctrination centers for people. And they're pushing agendas rather than teach people things. They're twisting things around. And schools are basically propaganda centers now. And you can see the result of that with how much the mainstream media flourishes with their propaganda. I mean, when you watch any of the mainstream media, you're watching propaganda now. That, you know, back when I was a kid, they reported, you know, they were supposed to report the truth. They were supposed to report things, you know, like that would happen, and they wouldn't make a judgment call on it. And during the 80s, I saw that start to slowly creep into agendas, but not really too much. It was more along the lines of, let's cash in on this horrible tragedy and make a lot of money on advertising. But now TV is pretty much gone. I mean, people watch TV are very old people, or very few people actually watch television. Now they're watching social media and streaming sites, because this is where it's at. And the corporations know this, like I said in another video, and that's why they put so much of this brainwashing stuff into social media. So now these schools in society and social media and the media and everything are turning people into narcissists. Now, what is a narcissist? A narcissist is a person who, and you can be a full-on narcissist. There are two types. There's the overt and the covert. The overt is the one that's in your face. You know, they're always crapping on everybody else. They don't really care. And then there's the covert, which is the victim one, which is like, I'm a victim of everything that happens to me. Feel bad for me because everything that happens to me is bad. You know, that kind of stuff. And they're both equally nasty. But the few common things is that the narcissists always have to be the center of attention. And that their appearance is everything. Everything is based on appearances. No one's allowed to ever contradict them, because a narcissist is never, ever, ever wrong. See, if I mess up a song, I will admit I messed it up. Even if people are sitting there in the comments and saying, man, you played that perfect. It's like, no, I didn't. You know, and it may appear kind of arrogant of me to say that, I don't know, in some kind of weird way, but I will admit my mistakes. And if I mess up, and I do mess up, just about every video I will mess up at least once in my playing. And it is what it is. I'm doing this live. I don't edit things like crazy. I don't edit things at all, in fact, other than maybe to put up a screen like you're seeing now. But this is all as it's recorded. It's what you see is what you get. So the thing is, the narcissists are never wrong. You can't be more skilled than them. You can't be better at something, in other words, than they are. And you're not allowed to own better things than a narcissist owns, because somehow they see that as a threat. And there's where your gear snobs come in, is because these people flock to these big YouTube channels. And they do it because they want to latch on. They want to latch on to the coattails of a popular YouTuber and catch that attention from the crowd. It's just called narcissistic supply. A narcissist, being the center of attention, always has to have attention on them and always has to be admired for something. Always have to be admired. I do this channel not to be admired. I do this channel because I like to entertain people. I love to make people happy. I love to give myself to people. You know, whatever I can do. You know, that's what I love to do. It's music. I think classic rock should stick around forever. And I do my best to keep it alive. And that's what I'm doing. This is what I've always enjoyed, entertaining people. I've always enjoyed being able to do something and make people happy about it. Because when I grew up in a really bad kind of situation with a narcissistic parent. It was my dad. And a lot of the things that I have now, because of him and people like him that I grew up with, I have PTSD now, which is really bad because of abuse that I went through when I was a kid. All sorts of abuse. You name the abuse, I went through it. And I saw things that no kid should ever have to see. You know, and I'm not talking just in a sexual nature. I'm talking about like in a full nature. Violence, horror, things that no kid should ever have to see. And I saw it. And it affected me. So it gives me trouble sleeping at night sometimes. So anyway, regardless of that, I grew up in that situation. So I always want to give to people because I like to see people happy. I was always told, you're worthless, you suck, you have no talent, you're never going to amount to anything, the whole 9 yards. I was told that constantly. But I rose above all that, and I joined music, bands, and played guitar, and just went my own way with it. Because I got something out of entertaining people. It wasn't the money, because a lot of places that we played in the bands I was in, they paid you garbage. You'd play 3-4 hours a night, and unless you were like the hottest band in the area, you, after everything was divvied up between whoever was helping you with the equipment and whatever you rented or whatever, you ended up getting like maybe $30 to $50 per guy, per person, and that's 3 hours work. So you have to do it because you love it. Because if you're doing it for the money, you ain't gonna be doing it for much more. And that's where posers come in, because posers would do it for the money, and they wouldn't find any money at it. Especially because people in the audience can pick out the posers. Now I'm getting kind of far afield. Today's popular music reflects the narcissism that has been bred into society now as a norm. Today's popular music is all about appearances. It's an illusion. If you look at the top 40 right now, you will find that 99.9% of the stuff on the top 40 is heavily edited, heavily messed with, has auto-tune, and even has digital instruments. They're not real instruments. It's an illusion. People don't have to sing anymore, because singing is now fixed with auto-tune. So you don't even have to have singing talent. The auto-tune is so good now. It doesn't sound like that when it first came out with Cher, when she did the I Believe in Life After Love song, where it was obvious. Now they can do that auto-tune very subtly, and only really good people with good musical ears can detect it. But yeah, a lot of this stuff is auto-tuned. In fact, I'd say a good 99.9% of the music, maybe almost 100%, it could be 100%, of the singing that comes out these days in music is auto-tuned. It's touched up. It's heavily edited. everything in popular music, basically. And you have digital instruments. And people, back in the old days, and here I go in my rocking chair as an old curmudgeon. Back in the 70s and the 80s, you had to have talent. You could try to be a poser, but people could pick it out and off you'd go. You wouldn't be popular. These days, people have been conditioned to find the more fake something is, the more they appreciate it, the more they like it. And people will pay hundreds, even thousands of dollars to go watch pop stars lip sync on a stage. They will get in there with a huge crowd of people and watch these people fake the entire show. Everything fake. The only thing real would be the dancing. And that's it. All appearances, all visual, but no substance whatsoever. This even invades classic rock and classic metal covers. I watched a video the other day of a Dokken cover, which I also did. But this was so heavily edited and touched up. The singer was auto-tuned. The guitar was heavily compressed and edited. And all the sound around it, every little bit of it was very, very precisely edited to sound exactly like the Dokken record. And if you put them side by side, you could barely tell them apart. And to me, that's not real. To me, that's as fake gets. But yet, the video had hundreds of thousands of likes. And it had over 1 million views. People appreciated it. They appreciated it, and they didn't know any better than it was completely and utterly fake, in a way. I mean, in some of the guitar playing, I'm sure the guitar player is talented. I'm sure the singer can sing. But when you got to rely on digital touching up of everything, there's something wrong, okay? And you cannot compare. There are people who are guitar players and musicians who are comparing themselves to these types of people who put out these heavily edited videos. And they're like, oh man, if I was only as good as these guys. It's fake. It's not real. It's totally fake. I mean, like I said, the guitar playing is probably there, but it's so edited. Let's see these guys do that on a stage. It never happened. Never happened in 1 million years. They'd never be able to pull off what they pulled off in their YouTube video on a stage. In fact, I'd love to see them try, because then it would be the end of them. And then the illusion would be busted, and the bubble would be popped. The reality bubble would be popped, and people would be like, oh my God, these guys aren't that great. And then there would even be some people, though, who would sit there and go, oh, well, they're awesome, man. It's just an off night. People have to, they cling to their beliefs with a death grip, and they put themselves into it. And this is why the music scene is like it is now. And this is why the guitar social media scene is like it is now. Nowadays, you can be anything you want on social media. You can act like anything you want on social media. You can make claims about yourself on social media. And you don't even need proof to back it up. You don't need any proof, because people will believe you. Like that guy I was arguing with. Why I argued with him, I don't know. Just one of those things. Guys like that annoy me. But, maybe somebody will see the argument and go, wow, that guy's a real jerk. Maybe I shouldn't be as fake as him. So, the thing is, that's why it's all flourishing, because now being a fake is admirable. Being stupid is admirable. Being ignorant is admirable. All these things are things that people look up to. It's like, there was a movie that came out a long time ago. It was made by, I believe, Mike Judge, the guy who created Beavis and Butthead. It was called The Idiocracy. And it was about how society was worshipful of stupid things, and they became dumber as a result. And the entire world just became a complete whole. It was horrible. And everything was fake, plastic, because people worshipped things that weren't real. And that is happening now. I mean, I can fully see it happening now. People are believing things that they want to believe rather than using their minds to figure it out. Critical thinking is not taught in schools anymore. You're taught in schools now that you are being told what to think, what to believe, how to act, what to say, and what agendas are good and what agendas are bad. And that's it. You're not being taught to reason things out for yourself. You're not being taught to learn things. Learning is not cool. Just like that girl said, books are not cool, because they're taught that the cool thing is to be like everybody else. The cool thing is to be a sheep. The cool thing is to be part of the herd. It's not cool to go your own way. It's not cool to reject those agendas, because that makes you a danger, and it makes you less of a person if you can think for yourself. Think about that. That is the mentality we're seeing these days. So now, being a poser, someone who has no substance and has everything digitally edited and enhanced to make it look like they're doing something, and then the people who are on the comment sections lying about who they are, lying about what they have, lying about their talent. See, that's cool because it's accepted now, because people have been conditioned to accept that. That is why gear snobbery is so much bigger now than it ever was back when I was touring in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, mid 2000s. It's because now you don't need talent anymore. You can just lie about everything. You can lie about what you do. You can lie about what you perform. You can lie about what you have. You can lie about all this stuff. And there are people who will respect that because they've been taught to respect lies. But at the end of the day, when all of this is said and done, you can buy an expensive instrument. You could buy expensive gear. You could watch a YouTube channel and learn a song or two. And then you can brag about it, hang it on the wall, hang the guitar on the wall, put the gear up, take pictures of it, anything. You don't even have to put up videos of yourself anymore. And people will believe that you're awesome. Why? Because they believe lies. And they've been taught to believe lies. Because it's all about narcissism. It's all about the ego. And ego, these days, in this day and age, ego is everything. But the absolute bottom line is, you can't buy talent. You can't buy it. You have to learn. You can't buy intelligence. You have to learn. You have to earn these things. That is what it's all about. And maybe someday we'll get back to that. Who knows? Nobody knows. At least, definitely not now. At the end of 2020 and into an uncertain future. Thank you for watching.